All right, welcome back. It is Lord KAVi Pulaha, and today we are going to be talking about timeline jumping with sacred breath and the path to forgiveness, shadow work, and manifestation. We're going to be covering the magic words of co-creation, and yeah, moreover, we're going to be looking at timeline jumping. So you choose your own path through your co-creation abilities, your manifestation abilities, and you actually can revise and edit those paths. You have full control over it. And part of the not being part of the victimizer game is controlling your path. So let's get started today. It's a really exciting topic. So let's just start on some of the basics here. So we are currently in a planetary ascension cycle, aka we are ascending while we are alive. So typically you ascend in death, right? You might go from 40 to 5D or whatever, 5D to 60. You typically move up one notch, not you don't skip dimensions. But um, we are in a planetary ascension cycle, so we're doing that while alive. That's why everything feels like crazy, and maybe you're having symptoms or ascension symptoms and all these types of things. But I want to kind of talk about the three pillars to ascension and what is required to ascend, and what on a frequency basis, on a physics basis, philosophy basis, what is kind of required to move on this ascension path. And it's not complex at all. It's not hard, but it is going to take some work if you haven't done it before. So essentially, the three pillars to ascension are law of one alignment. So law of one is the highest and best timeline for all. So you have the highest and best timeline for yourself, and then the highest and best timeline for all. So for example, if let's say I'm starving and I'm out of money, right? My highest and best timeline might be to go to the grocery store and pull out a gun and rob the grocery store because I'm starving. Is that the highest and best timeline for all? No, it is not. That is dangerous to the public, pulling out a gun, robbing a you, right. There are all sorts of examples like this where you can do something that might be in your interest, but not in the interest of the community, not in the interest of the collective, not in the interest of all. So that law of one alignment is something you want to kind of bring into your field, and then start to work with that energy and realize, oh man, is what I'm doing really aligned for my highest and best path and the highest and best path for all? So that's law of one alignment. The second thing is we're ascending while alive, so your ability to hold a higher dimensional energy on a physical level is very important. Um, your body must be able to take on those higher dimensional frequencies. So when I do my Mahark Seal, I will often put the Merkaba on my chakra system, and then I will say to my chakras, I'll speak to my chakras in a meditative sense, or out loud as well during the meditation. Um, you know, chakra six, be open, spin freely, take on higher dimensional frequency, right? I'm commanding, I'm telling my chakras that, hey, it's all right to take on this higher dimensional frequency. We're in an upgrade cycle, we're in a planetary ascension cycle. It's all right to take this energy on, and it's great to talk to your chakras, talk to your cells, talk to your organs. These are all part of you. They're all worlds within worlds. If you want to think about that, like each cell is like a whole different world. If you want to think of it like that, it's all very much so alive. So you have to be able to hold the higher dimensional energies. If you have like if you're very old, you're very maybe you have extreme disabilities or all the types of things. Maybe it's less you're less able to hold on to that frequency. But yeah, you want to clear those distortions and then be able to take on that frequency. And so really most people should be able to take this on. There may be some cases where, that's not possible, and then that person would leave through death. So, that's for the vast majority of people, you're going to be able to take on this higher dimensional frequency. It is your birthright. You have the DNA for it, and the DNA has been in quotes switched off. The fire letters have been switched off. You can switch them on. So I would never look in the mirror and say, I can't do this. That's not what I'm saying here at all. But you do have to kind of talk to your chakras, talk to your systems, and get everyone ready, everyone being all the pieces and parts of your body here physically to receive that higher dimensional energy. Sun gazing is great. I have an Astral Vision video, talks about pineal gland push-ups. This is a great way to strengthen your pineal gland and bring higher dimensional energy into your field. Um, the third pillar to ascension is lack of attachments. This is a big one. We're going to talk about this a lot today, um, especially if you have like SSP experiences and things like that, or you have trauma, or you have karmic residue from past lives and things. This is all very, 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 very relevant to that. So, essentially, when you're going to 5D, so 3D is the reasoning mind, right? Us versus them. 40 is forgiveness, right? So it's not us versus them. Both sides are getting along, but there's still kind of some consternation. And then 5D is love, right? So there's no us versus them. The us versus them have come together in a loving state. So when if you're going to 5D, you can't really carry attachments. An attachment would be an us versus them. And us versus them is 3D. In 4D, you're forgiving the us for us's versus them's, right? And then in 5D, you're coming together as one. So if you're going to make it to 5D, you can't really have attachments. Think like Star Wars and the Jedi, you know, the Jedi path is not one of attachments. All these terms are, the Star Wars stuff is actually pretty keen on this from the light side Jedi point of view. But you can't be carrying attachments. If you think you're going to die and meet Jesus, that's an attachment. If, oh, I want to stay in 4D to be with my dog or my wife or my cat, attachment. Oh, I want to stay in 4D because I want to do this. Okay, that's an attachment. That's going to keep you here. Um, and look, you can momentarily be like, oh, I want, I have this thing I want to do and I'm going to go do it, you know. But it's also like on a soul level, you have to make sure you clean yourself out, right? And then, so everyone gets impulses of all sorts of different things, but on a soul level, you need to be attachment free. And reinforcing that with a strong meditation practice morning and night, or simply once a day, going outside, sun gazing, meditating, all these types of things will reinforce, kind of clearing those attachments. Attachments are essentially implants in your field. You're an energetic being. And if you have your consciousness is um, the set of ideas that you hold, the set of beliefs you hold, and that projects your consciousness based on those beliefs. So if you have attachments, if you have implants, if you have these notions pre-prescribed into your field, that's going to keep you from your ascension path. So that's what we're talking about today. So again, 3D is a reasoning mind, us versus them. 4D is forgiveness, where us versus them are working together but not fully aligned. And then 5D is the us versus them have aligned fully in a loving manner. So forgiveness is the middle path to full love. So the 3D mind is fully stuck in the miasmas of the physical world, the polarized world, us versus them, red versus blue. Um, in 3D, you're having to reason your way through everything by hand, right, with your brain. Really, your heart is much, 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 much more powerful in an electromagnetic sense than your brain is. So really, we want to be using our heart to feel and to sense and to know, rather than using our brain to think and reason, right? Reasoning is great. It helps you on your math test. It's not going to help you for ascension. You need to put that all aside. If you need to reason through your trauma in like you have 3D traumas and then you reason them through and then bring them together in 4D and then they start to work together in 4D and then 5D, you move past reason onto gnosis. I know that it's not us versus them. We are all one, right? That's kind of the path here. And that is the ascension path to 5D. Let's continue on. So we just talked about the three pillars. What if you have things you want to remove or change, right? Maybe you say, oh, I have this karmic attachment, or I have this past life where this happened, or I have this SSP trauma, and it's very tough. Every time I think about it, it makes me tear up or something. That is perfectly reasonable, and all the compassion given to you on that. But what we want to do is actively work to remove those implants from our fields, right? You can't carry that to 5D whatsoever. 5D, there's us versus them in 3. There's 4D, which is forgiveness, which is us versus them working together, but still kind of at odds. And then 5D is the us versus them coming together in oneness. So any implants is going to keep you from 5D. Any attachments of any kind. So yeah, we're going quite zen here as a planet. So the key to this process is, in quotes, you must learn the lesson and forgive yourself, and then release all that trauma, all that attachment, all that implant to the infinite flow of natural organic source. And this can be done in a meditation. It's not difficult to do, but you actually have to sit down in the meditation and do it. Yeah, I guess you could accomplish this with action and not meditation, but I would do action and meditation, right? If it helps you to go exercise to get your mind off some trauma, go exercise too. But the meditation is where you can actually release these on an energetic level and not carry them around with you. I would recommend the meditation and the exercise, or the meditation and the playing music or painting or whatever artistic endeavor suits you. But yeah, in quotes, going forward, you cannot harbor feelings. You cannot harbor no feelings towards there. It's bad grammar, but you cannot harbor any feelings towards anything if you're going to ascend to 5D. I'm not saying you can't love. I'm not saying you can't have people you love in your life. But if that love is so strong that it's like, oh my gosh, My significant other isn't going to ascend, and I'm on the ascension path, but I have to help them. That's an attachment. That's going to keep you in that 4D framework of the us versus them kind of working together, but not fully being unified in 5D oneness. So you might have to go into the astral and meditative sense in a meditative space and speak the words while meditating. Um, you know, you got to learn your lesson. I've learned this lesson. If you separate yourself from, basically the law of one is a highest and best timeline for all, in alignment with the highest and best timeline for yourself. When you align those, your law of one. If you got off that path for whatever reason, which is completely fine, it happens to everyone, especially in the sense realm, you have to go into a meditation and speak those words. I've learned this lesson. I forgive myself. And then basically in the astral, call in your Maharic seal. That big Merkaba you call in the Maharic seal, you can just give all that negative energy, like visualize yourself in the meditation, having the energy come out of your right hand into the Merkaba, and then having the Merkaba energy flow into your left hand to recharge you. Because you don't want to just give energy away and receive nothing back. You want to give energy away and then receive the divine source energy, the pure natural source energy that you are. So you want to replace all your negative content out of your right hand, spray it out of your right hand in your meditation into the Merkaba, and then have a recharge link coming into your left hand. That's basically the concept here. And I'm going to go into some details on how you can do that, how you can focus on that, how can you narrow that down into, really, really getting rid of all those attachments. So we talk about release during meditation. We have I have the clearing meditation, the clearing mantra that is on my channel. Basically, it aligns you with the infinite flow of natural organic source, and I list all the literal places that the source energy flows through. So it's directly in alignment with that path. That's the path they're taking to ascend, and that path is governed by the law of one. So it's the clearing mantra I have is very strong. The Guardians have specifically told me that, if a being appears in the astral, you can just say that your clearing mantra, KAVi. They told me this. That you can just say that clearing mantra, and they will. That is a very law of one clearing mantra. That is very aligned to the ascension pathway, ascension timeline, and so that is a perfect way to align yourself with that infinite flow. And then when you go into your Maharic seal, maybe you're like, oh, I did the clearing mantra, but this thing is bugging me. It's bugging me. Well, pull up your Maharic seal, have that big Merkaba, right? And then release all of that. Simply deposit all of that negative energy into the Merkaba. You outflow through your right hand. And then simply recharge that energy into your left hand from the Merkaba as an inflow. So it should look like a little triangle between your right hand, the Merkaba, and your left hand. So it's not hard to get rid of these, but you actually have to go in the astral and do it. If you think, in quotes, there is a reason to keep holding on to this, then what I would offer to you is ask yourself, what is the lesson that my soul is trying to learn from this? Why would I hold on to this? I'm not going to hold on to this in the future, but why would I hold on to this? And that is the lesson your soul is trying to learn. So you want to learn the lesson, and you want to push the learning into your field. You want to keep the learning, and then you want to remove all the negativity in a meditation. So yeah, essentially all sorts of things happen to people. You want to learn your lesson. You want to forgive yourself, even if it's extremely hard. We're going to talk about this. Everyone deserves forgiveness on all levels at all times. That is the law of one, unequivocally. But yeah, you're always able to be forgiven. That's the nature of source. That's not coming from me. That's coming from source directly. Um, I'll go into some detail on that, but essentially, you need to learn your lesson, carry the lesson with you, and grow as a soul, and then deposit all of the trauma to your Merkaba in your Maharic Seal meditation is how I do it. Um, so forgive yourself even if you don't deserve it. This is a great slide. We're going to cover this topic a lot here. From a purely physics point of view, right? You have co-creative ability. You're manifesting. You're a wizard. You're a lowercase g god. You can manifest. All these types of terms are correct, right? So, in quotes, the wizard spell or manifestation that you are manifesting or spell casting or however you want to think about it is not able to be held up and will eat you alive if you don't step away from it. So, if you're carrying trauma, that is a spell that you have in your field. That is, think of Harry Potter. Oh, I cast a bad spell and now it's rebounding at me. And oh, it's hurting me. Okay, that's the exact same thing as what we're talking about here, right? The Harry Potter reference is really keen here because if you are manifesting a reality where you have attachments, those are going to eat you alive until you fix them. And that's, you need to learn a lesson and release the negative energy back to source. So essentially, you're Harry Potter or Hermione or whomever, and you're casting this spell, and it's rebounded back at you. And then basically you need to go in and cleanse that trauma and move on. Um, Hence, you need to learn the lesson, forgive yourself, and release the negative trauma to natural organic source. I've been saying this a bunch of times. I'm going to keep saying it. That is the whole point of this video. I'm going to give you some more concrete, specific instructions as we move forward here. So down here in the third and fourth density, we're in 4D now for some of us. We are used to a lot of, in quotes, gnarly spells, is what I would say. We're used to a lot of implants. We're used to a lot of distortions, right? And past 560, there aren't quite as many distortions. And like the Beast Machine on this planet, Kim Gogan speaks about this quite a lot. Um, don't love all her content, but she does cover the Beast Machine very fully. Um, these neg The Beast Machine imposes these negative distortions on us, and furthermore, the 15D time matrix is kind of went into fall. Um, so the whole time matrix, the whole Milky Way galaxy, if you will, has kind of experienced this separation aspect where separation need not exist. So, in quotes, we're used to these gnarly spells, right? Essentially, they're placed here by negative intruder races. So, these higher dimensional beings fell. They chose separation where separation need not exist, and then that has trickled down to the lower heavens, right? We're in the third heaven, the fourth heaven, fourth lower heaven, um, and so we need to transition to clean source-based approaches, or you will get burned. So if you have trauma, you need to learn the lesson from it. You can carry that lesson with you and evolve as a soul, and then you need to deposit the negative energy into that Merkaba and recharge with that Merkaba so you're not at a loss. Um, are you on your highest and best timeline? And is your highest and best timeline aligned with the highest and best timeline for all, the law of one? Or are you releasing yourself on a path of separation from the highest and best timeline for you and for all? And I'm not saying, if you're not religious, that's great. But, if you love your dog too much, that's a religion. If you love work too much, that's a religion. If you check your stock prices on your investment account every 10 minutes, that's a religion. If I need to go on TikTok every second. Okay, no, you don't need to be on TikTok all day. You just don't. All right, that's a religion. You're releasing yourself to a lower timeline, not your highest and best timeline. That's what I mean by religion. It doesn't have to be Abrahamic, doesn't have to be walking around some cube in Mecca or whatever. Anyway, um, releasing yourself to a path of separation from the highest and best timeline for you and for all is not ideal. So, what you want to do is release that karma or habit or less than perfect path and move on. And this is how people get stuck in the reincarnation trap, right? They try to go to 5D, maybe they're in 4D, they die and they want to go to 5D, but oh, Jesus is going to come save me. Or oh, excuse me. Oh, I want to ascend, but my wife needs me, or my dog needs me, or I didn't make enough money and I'm still sad about that. That's going to keep you from ascension. So these are all just types of implants we're talking about here today. And the process of timeline jumping is forgiving yourself, releasing that to your Merkaba, to the flow of natural organic source through your Maharic seal, through that Merkaba, and then recharging so you're not at a loss. So forgive yourself even if you don't deserve it. The more attachments that one has, the harder it is to let go and move on to the next realm after death. If something is keeping you here, this attachment will prevent you from ascending in death. So the infinite flow of natural organic source, aka the law of one, the highest timeline for all, not just yourself, has no attachments, right? You're in a state of beingness if you're in alignment with that flow. So there's no attachments. You're just being, right? You're like a kid playing in the yard. The kid playing in the yard is not thinking about how their investments are doing. They're not thinking about what they're saying on CNN. They're not thinking about, oh, what does my wife think about this? Oh, is my dog mad at me because I didn't give it a treat? Like, give the dogs aren't it, but give this being a treat, right? So like these are all attachments and on various different levels. So some examples are, I want to wait for my husband to die, then I'll leave. I want to ascend with my husband. Well, that will be an attachment that'll keep you here. You won't ascend. You'll wait for your husband. You'll reincarnate here and wait for your husband if you have that belief. I want to beat this asshole up. He stole my lunch money, right? Like if you're carrying anger about a bully, right? That is an attachment. You need to release that and move on with your life. And if that bully comes to you again, pay them no mind, right? Because for an argument to work, you need to have one person pushing energy at you and then you pushing energy back at them. An argument takes two people. So if you simply step away from that and the bully can yell at you and you just like put your headphones on and walk away and don't notice it, you know,
the bully's not going to get a rise out of you. It's the same thing with attachments in your field. You have to cling on to that attachment for that attachment to exist in your field. And if you just release that attachment, you don't have it anymore. And you'd call that timeline jumping. Another attachment is, oh, I hate the government. I've dealt with this a lot. The government has a lot of issues down here. There's no step councils. The telepathy is really, really muddy. You know, I get mad at the government all the time, and I have to consistently go into the astral and release that negative thought, or it's going to carry with me all day, and then I'm going to get angry, and I'm going to start, going to work, doing my job at work, and then I'm going to be angry about the government, and I'm going to be angry to people. That can't happen. That's not law of one. So everyone's dealing with this in their certain different ways. Everyone has things that bother them. Um, I wish death upon this group. I get continually angered at the GFL. We're not going to, the solution here is not to, kill the Galactic Federation. We're not trying to end their lives and end their beingness. We're not trying to do that. They've done some bad things in the past and they need to reform. And the 4D timeline is that forgiveness path. So if you're angry at a group, oh my gosh, what are they doing to those? Why are there kids in cages in the United States? DARPA and ICE and all these things. Why are the people in Gaza getting genocided? I mean, these are excellent questions, but if you hold that in your field as a negative energy, as a negative implant, as a thought form in your energy field, it will eat you alive. All right, until you resolve it. So timeline jumping is the only solution here. Releasing it back to natural organic source. I don't like these people, all these types of things. Yeah, I mean, like, look, you can be angry at the Khazarians. You totally can be. But if you carry that in your field, it is going to pull you down. It's like the metaphor of there's a drowning person in the water, and really the lifeguard should rescue the drowning person in the pool, not someone who barely knows how to swim. If you barely know how to swim, you're not going to be able to rescue that person in the deep end, right? Maybe you don't swim in the deep end. If you swim into the deep end, try and rescue that person, you both are going to get dragged down and you're both going to drown, and the lifeguard will have to rescue you both. This is the exact principle here. In quotes, you can't take that with you to 5D. Yeah, you can't. Whatever attachment you think you have. Oh, I'm pissed about this. Oh, I'm anxious about that. Oh, how do these people do such terrible things? That is an attachment. You cannot take that to 5D. You can still, like, look, I can personally think from an objective point of view that the Galactic Federation hasn't done good things. But if I carry that in my field as anger and walk around with anger in my field all day, you will not ascend with that anger. I guarantee it. 5D doesn't have anger. Just it has oneness in a way that we're not used to seeing down here. Karma must be released or you won't ascend. So your karmic debt is your trauma to release. That is the mission your soul has chosen to come here and learn these lessons, right? That is your mission. That is your soul mission. Those are the lessons your soul is trying to learn while you're here in this realm. Um, so if your grandmother effed up your line by being religious, you got to release that, right? Maybe you grew up with religious programming. Your grandma taught it to you, your parents taught it to you, blah, 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 blah. All that. You got to release it, or you're going to get released to a lower timeline. This is the way fallen beings or archangels or Dracos or Greys or whatever negative alien agenda group you want to think of, that's how they get into your field through these religion traps, these releasing events. If you're if your past life on Earth or reincarnation happened, you are here for some reason. You didn't overcome that karma. So essentially, if what I'm saying is if you have past lives here, that means in the past you tried to ascend to 5D in death, and then when you went to, when you passed, right, you had an attachment and you got reincarnated here. Most people on this planet have many, many past lives, and it's not a bad thing, it's not a good thing. It's just your soul's path, and it's there's no judgment here at all. We're all beings under source. We're all equal. Um, Regardless of your lineage, regardless of what your title is or what, those things don't matter. We are all equal under source. I am as my life is as precious as the blade of grass outside, as is the tree outside, as is the acorn outside, as is a grain of sand. We are all equal here. All the same, though, if you have this karma from these past lives, it is your mission to release that, or you simply won't ascend. It's just the way the physics work, and it's not mean, it's not judgmental. It is you just simply cannot carry attachments to 5D. Um, you must take ancestral trauma in your field, in your past lives, altars. These are all in your field, and release them to natural organic source. In quotes, change the words in the sentences that make up your story. So you have a life story. Oh, if you were to go talk to, go on a date or something and talk to someone and tell them your life story, you made up that life story with sentences, right? Timeline jumping is the process of changing the words in the sentences that make up your story. I can't remember who said this. Maybe it was Soul Based Life. Maybe it was Becca from Soul Based Life on YouTube. I can't remember who said it, but it was such a complete bombshell quote. And that's what we're going to be dealing with here today. So I want to talk about some of my experiences. So maybe you can be like, oh, I understand how KAVi had to deal with some of his stuff. Maybe that can help me with dealing with some of my stuff. So this is some shadow work I had to do. And so for me, I had SSP involvement in this lifetime, mostly in other lifetimes. And that kind of comes back to you as well because we were traveling through time and space, and you're a fractal of source. So all your fractals have karma too. So you have to actually have to deal with those fractals as well. You have to deal with your stuff, and so do your higher selves, and for you to merge with them. So, but some from this timeline as well. But anyway, so in this timeline, I was kind of groomed, involved with opening portals to other realms for the SSP. I have some abilities with the time stream where I can open up portals to timeless realms because I'm from a timeless realm. And so when you open up a portal to another realm, you actually project a piece of yourself there, and it travels there. So, and then they'd mind wipe me so I wouldn't remember. And then I'd have all these weird like memories of these other lifetimes, going to these different places and doing these weird things. And then I'd be like, how did I get that? I don't remember doing that. Um, and this was, I was taken against my will and all these types of things. And I don't remember because I was mind wiped. I basically had to go through, I think it's on the next slide here. Um, yeah, so I had a ton of these crossed wires in my field. And I did a number of sessions with Soul Based Life. Becca was great. And she said, KAVi, in your field, I'm looking in your field, and it's like you have all these crossed wires above you. It's like you tangled all the cables running from your TV to your Xbox. And it's like so tangled I can't even see what's going on. And essentially that was from me opening portals to different realms, projecting a piece of myself there, and then not ever calling that piece of myself back. Right. So I have all these attachments to these other realms because I opened up portals to these other realms, and I needed to cut the cord. Right. I needed to snip the crossed wires and move on free of these obstructions in my field. Um, so yeah, I come from a timeless realm. I don't get sick. Opening portals to other galaxies and dimensions, and so the SSP use that against me, having me open these portals for them. Um, Most people do get time sick and can die relatively easily. Like not everyone can jump into a portal to 12D. Like that's not. I'm not sure I could right now. It is basically going through portals can be a tricky process, and I have some portal abilities, and the SSP took advantage of that. I had to release this all by hand, and that is the process of shadow work. So essentially, what I did is I did my clearing mantra. I did my Maharic seal, and I called in my higher selves. I called in, I have lineage to the Seraphi race line. So from 14D, these are wings and eyeballs. If you've ever seen, the seraphim from the Bible, you can look up what a picture of the seraphim looks like, and their wings and eyeballs. So I have a very strong 14D lineage. So I called on some of my soul lineage to help me with this. You can have different soul lineage. In my next video, I'm going to be covering how to look up your soul lineage and look up your past lives based on your natal chart. It's very, very easy. But I called in the Seraphi, and I know how to open portals, so I opened up a portal and called them in. You don't really need to open up a portal to call in your soul lineage. You don't. But anyway, I did that in this experience. And then essentially dragons came through that portal and blew tons of dragon fire through all my crossed wires. And this was like a 2-hour healing session. I went to a meditation, and it was like a 2-hour session. And the whole meditation was spent. I did my Maharic seal and my clearing mantra, and then I called in the Seraphi, and they helped. I told them I want to release this. I'm releasing this now. I release this now. I release this now. I said all the words to release it. And then the Seraphim were like, great, we'll help you cut these cords because I chose it. The Seraphim can't do the work for you. You have to do the work for yourself. And yes, you can get help from your higher selves. You can get help from your higher soul lineage. And for me, this was the Seraphi. They sent some beautiful dragons, and they blew dragon fire through my crosswires for an hour or two. I did 2 or 3 separate sessions of this. So this was 2, 4, 5, 6 hours of clearing work specifically on this. So even when you're doing everything right, in my experience, it still took 5, 6, 7 hours of meditative endeavor here, meditative focus to clear all those wires. It's not something that's going to happen instantly. You can say the words right, you say the words once, and it's not necessarily going to clear your field forever. You might have to keep going back to it. You might have to keep doing these clearings until you have moved on fully. It's like going to multiple therapy sessions. Therapy isn't bad or anything, but you can actually do the therapy energetically with yourself. And if you want to go talk to a therapist, go do that. Don't let me stop you. But a lot of times the therapist is looking to collect paychecks from you. While if you're just going into the astral and you're working with your higher selves are, they need you to get rid of those attachments so you can ascend and so they can ascend. You're all the same being, different fractals of the same being. So their mission is your mission. So working with your higher selves, working with your soul lineage is an honor and a pleasure because you are both aligned on the exact same mission. Your therapist is not aligned on your mission. So, yeah, not a big fan of therapy, although it can be helpful. I mean, if you want to talk to someone, go talk to someone. If that's a great first step for you, great, start there. But again, you're gonna have to go into the astral in a meditative space and release this stuff, or I think it's gonna be very, very difficult for most people to release it without doing it in a meditative sense. Um, so yeah, after that, I had much clearer intention in my life. I felt physically lighter. I felt like I just had more energy. I was a much cleaner version of myself. It was like I upgraded Windows XP to Windows whatever the current version is. All right. I upgraded my computer to the newest update. It felt like I just got an update. And so yeah, again, changing the words and the sentences that make up your story will lead you to a clearer, more aligned version of yourself and you can ascend that way. Let's talk about forgiveness. So you deserve to be forgiven no matter how effed up it was. All right. The reason for this is everyone deserves forgiveness at every level at every time. Even if you've done war crimes, even if you've done time crimes, even if, you know, rape, torture, all these terrible things, you can always choose to realign yourself with natural organic source. And why is this? Because you are source. Everything in this realm is source. All right. Just let's think about that for a second. Everything here is source. Source particles vibrating at a frequency, oscillating at a frequency. And then the frequency band that you can see from your eyes is in like the third dimension or the fourth dimension, depending on where you are right now on this planet. So everything here is source. And source basically gives you the free will chance to co-create at all times. And then, that says, oh, if you were to go off the path of the law of one, you separate yourself from that path, you choose separation, you can always come realign and find that source path. Um, and maybe you think that, oh my gosh, I missed this event because I was unaligned with natural organic source. I'll never get it back. I'm never on my highest and best timeline. That is not the way this works. You can always co-create your highest and best timeline, even if you missed one gate. In like what is it, Super Mario Kart, you have to go through all the gates to win the race. Okay, in Earth, in this realm, you can miss one of the gates, go to a separate area, and then get thrown back on the track somewhere else, and then realign yourself and move on. Right? It's all about realignment. It's not about did I hit every gate. It's not about going through every gate. It's about having an alignment and keeping that alignment intact so you can ascend. So I want to my video on the High Veca Codes and the basic units of creation covers this in detail. But I want to just run through the energetic stack that your body is on an energetic basis. This is right from the Ashana Dean texts. Kathara One teaches this, her workshop, as well as Dance for Love, Life, Freedom explains this as well. But basically, I'm just going to run through the stack. So you have these things called fire letters, right? And they fire in your DNA. They fire in an oscillation state when they're firing, and then when they're being waiting to be fired on, they're called vibration, which is divine feminine, divine masculine. Divine feminine is the vibration state, pre-sound, waiting to be fired, and then the oscillation state is light, which is divine masculine. So it's either in a vibration state waiting to produce light, or it's producing light actively. So these are your fire letters, and they align with the dimensional bandwidth that you're in, 3, 4, 5D, whatever. These fire letters basically are made up of these particai. So particai, particay, and particum. Those are the void, the divine feminine, and the divine masculine, right? The void being so the inhale is going to be the divine feminine because you're pulling energy into your system. The holding your breath is going to be the void. And the exhale is the divine masculine. You're exhaling the light emanating through your auric fields in a sense. Yes, it's just breath when you look at it, yes, but technically it's light. And so those three basic units of creation align with, on a macro level, the void, divine masculine field, divine feminine field, which encircles our 15D time matrix. Those macro fields align with the particai, particay, and particum particles that make up everything. So everyone's like, oh, we discovered the secret particle that's everything. No, it is the particai, particay, and particum related to the void, divine feminine, divine masculine, the Irie and the man A and the man Ow. I covered this in excruciating detail in my High Veca Codes video, but I'm just going to run through it quickly today. So you have these Partakai particles, they associate themselves into Partakai fields, right? Those fields form chelons, which are geometric shapes with these Partakai. And then basically, those chelon codes do, think of like a TV creating an image. The chelon codes dance around and create your morphogenetic field, based on your choices and what you're doing and how you manifest, right? And just your beingness, your existence, it manifests all the same. Um, your morphogenetic field feeds into your Cathara centers, or this is similar to like a computer chip in a computer. All right. The Cathara centers feed into your chakras. Chakras are like the transmission wires going from your computer to your monitor. All right. And that's why it's really great when you're doing energy work to clean out those wires, because you can't really clean out the Cathara centers. They're the ones um, generating that your morphogenetic field feeds in through your Cathara centers. So you don't really want to clean the Cathara centers. Um, you want to clean the chakras instead. So those are the transmission wires to the monitor, and then from there, the Hova body, and they're called Hova shields, or signet shields technically. Um, these are the shields, that energetic shields that surround you, which to where your holographic image that you are seeing with your eyes manifests. So for our computer metaphor, that would be the monitor itself displaying the image, right? So you have your Cathara centers, which is the computer chip. You have the chakras, which are the transmission wires to the monitor, and then you have the Hova bodies, which is like the monitor itself. And then like the auric fields is a literal projection in the monitor, right? So the auric field would be the picture on the screen. The Hova bodies would be the monitor itself. The chakras would be the wires from the computer to the monitor, and the Cathara center is like the computer chip. So anyway, that's this all works out energetically, looking top down, looking bottom up, and that's why the law of one teachings are so fire, because it all lines up everywhere, and it's just quite simply how the physics work. And we weren't taught that way in school. I'm so sorry about that. But all the same, it's if you want to ascend, learning these things is going to really, really, really help you navigating these lessons that your soul has chosen for yourself in a higher dimensional sense. So, in quotes, you are dust particles and source particles vibrating and oscillating at different oscillation densities. You are literally a holographic universe entirely. So, through the energetic stack that I just talked about, that is how your hologram displays itself, right? We're all just particles floating in space, source particles floating in space. You are source. You are infinitely able to be forgiven. Never forget that. You are always able to be forgiven on every level, every time. So you manifest a hologram via your aura body in the systems I previously explained. So you are source. Source is here to experience many things in many different ways. Source is all that is, right? So any bad things you did, any evil you did, can and will always be forgiven if you are willing to forgive it. It's all you are just source. So if you separate yourself from source, then you can remember, oh, I'm still source, and come back into alignment with the law of one, because you're always source. If you choose to be source just a little bit separated, then all you have to do is realign yourself and you won't be separated anymore. So you're always able to be forgiven at every level on a physics basis, on a purely physics basis. No one is above forgiveness. If you want to separate and do bad, okay, that's fine. But you will never cease to be an emanation of source, or else you would just not exist in this reality. So the physics on this is extremely absolute. You can always be forgiven. The process of releasing these implants is shadow work. This is timeline jumping. This is changing the words in the sentence that make up your story. Let's talk about timeline jumping in a really good technique I use as well. So yes, for me, I had those crossed wires, and I called, I released them, did my clearing mantra, Maharak seal, and then I spoke the words to release those implants, and then I called on some of my soul lineage to help me with that. That's one method you can use. Another method, which is really, really simple, really, really rational and logical too. So it kind of appeals to your 3D mind, which is having to deal with all reasoning through all these distortions. So you could just simply write a list of all the things you want to experience on your highest and best timeline, right? And then you can write a list of all the things you want for the highest and best timeline for the collective, the highest and best timeline for all. And then you can write a list of things that you want to avoid or not do, which is not your highest and best timeline. And then you go into your meditation and basically state, I, KAVi command my field to be in alignment with my highest and best timeline per this list, and then read off the items from the list. Simple as that. And then say, I don't want to be involved in these things. I want to manifest a reality that does not include these things. And then I want the reality that I manifest to include these things for the collective, because I think these are important for the collective. And I want to walk a path that manifests these things. These are all very easy to do. You can also, if you have shadow work, you have, maybe I did this thing that was wrong, this thing that was wrong, and you're really anxious about it. Write those down on a list. You can go into a meditation. I always go into a meditation with like a bunch of notes. And then halfway through my meditation, I'll pull up the list. I'll be laying down and be hard to see and all this stuff. I have low light. And, I'll read the words on my notes. You can totally do that. You're welcome to take notes into meditation, making a list of all the things you want, you don't want, all the things you want the collective to have and don't have, all the things that maybe you've done wrong or you think are negative implants and you want to remove and give back to source. You want to remove them from your field and give back to source. You can write all those down and go into a meditation with that and just simply release it. And like that's the process of getting over these things. And I think a lot of people try and work through it in the physicality. Oh, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to get a new job. I'm blah, blah. Those are all fine things, and you can do that. But until you've gone in the astral and actually repaired yourself on an energetic basis, everything is energetic before it is physical. So if you're trying to work through it physically, I think you're going to tire yourself out and you're going to run a lot of laps around the track, and you're not going to end up releasing that trauma back to natural organic source through running, because running is not meditating. You can go in your meditation and release it, or you can go run in the track. And I'm not saying don't get exercise, but what I'm saying is you must go in the astral, in the meditation space, and do this. It's once you understand that the energetic structure of how you exist and how you project your hologram into existence, you have to fix it energetically, and then it will be reflected into the physical. The physical is downstream of the energetic. Um, so, this is also something that's really cool. Once you've kind of cleared your field and you're looking to, like, maybe you have a list of these things you want to do, list of these things you don't want to do, list of the things you want the collective to do and not do. Maybe you've worked through that list of traumas you have and release them all back to source. Um, right out of this, so the workshop from Ashi Nadine that this is from is called Dance for Love, Life, and Freedom. There are YouTube recordings of it. I got the PDF for free. It's very easy to come about these documents. It's all free. Maybe you have to sign up for Scribed, a free account, and they give you like 25 free downloads a day, and you can just download the documents there. But it's very easy to get a PDF of this. You can ask ChatGPT, AI, and it will direct you to these documents. It is not very difficult to find them at all. So these are the magic words of co-creation. So basically, each one of these, so there's 4 songs, which are like mantras, right? And each one of them aligns to um, um, one of the creation layers. So the Akasha God Force is Psalm 1. That is the entire source complex, right? Characterized by, oops, here we go. Oh my goodness. I'm having trouble pointing this. Characterized by this symbol. And that's the Akasha symbol. That is the entire source complex. And that is the request. You're requesting source of an entire complex to work with it, right? To work with source for your co-creation. And then Psalm 2 is intention embedding. And this is working with the Irie. So the Irie is a divine feminine. So the pre-sound vibration, right? So your fire letter has not switched on to an oscillation state. It's waiting to be switched on. So this is the inhale breath, if you will, or the particum particles. And then we have Psalm 3, which is the pause breath, which is intention creating. This is the man-au, M-A-N capital U. That is the void space. So when you're holding your breath, you're channeling the void energy through your system. Really cool, right? And so the void is no thing, but it's everything at the same time. So it's all of beingness in one, but it's just no thing. It doesn't materialize as anything. It's just the void. And that aligns to partikai particles. And then we have on the micro level. And then we also have Psalm 4, which is the out breath, which is intention manifestation. So this is a projection, right? And this is dealing with the divine masculine. So this is the divine masculine layer that surrounds our 15 time matrix is the pre-light oscillation layer. And so oscillation is light. And so essentially we're requesting the source complex as a whole to direct the divine feminine to bring that in breath into you. And then you're holding that breath with the void and the man-au, M-A-N-U, and that's the creation. And then you project that creation into your hologram here in the physicality. So, and then there's some words at the end you can say as well. I think those words loosely translate to, and so it is, something like that. But yeah, so I'm gonna just, so these are the magic words of co-creation. This is how you manifest. And according to the law of one material from Ashyan Din and the guardians from the cloistered Duratura plates, this is the ascension teachings in the ascension path from the beings who have already ascended and reside in that state of beingness as ascended beings. So very, very high confidence in these techniques. Um, Again, when you're speaking these things, a capital A is a lowercase a is ah, and then the capital U is like an ow. So those are the pronunciation on these is somewhat difficult. I messed it up and I messed up the pronunciation and was still able to use these. All right. So ideally you get the pronunciation right over time. Ashiana Dean in her videos has great pronunciation and you can refer to those. But it still kind of works if you get the pronunciation a little jacked up or you have an accent or something. I wouldn't worry about that. So I'm going to read the slide here. So each one of the line is for various parts of source. So I recommend you can chant or sing these if possible. Um, so, inhale breath through your nose and then exhale saying the mantra, right? You can also do something where you inhale while saying the words. So, let me show you. So, it's like a whisper breath. It's like a whisper inhale breath. So you're inhaling, but you're saying it's called an inhale breath. If you're in like a metal band in college, like I was, it's called an inhale scream. It's the inhale scream, right? If you want to go online and look that up, it's like if you're in a metal band, it's the least useful scream. But either way, if you want to that bring that breath into your field using the divine feminine, pull that into your field um, with saying the mantra, you can. I have done the inhale breath and then the exhale breath, both saying the mantra on the inhale and the exhale. And you're saying the mantra twice as much, and it is extremely, extremely powerful. It is also kind of a vocal workout, so it's going to be intense for you. Um, I hope my computer doesn't charge, or I hope my computer doesn't die here. Okay, so um. Yeah, so I also talk about pineal gland push-ups. You can use those as well to strengthen your meditations. All right, and Dance for Life 3, it covers all of this. I'm gonna move on. I don't want my computer to die on me here. Um, so salutations. So after you've done these magic words of co-creation, salutations is a more advanced version of this where actually you're going to be spinning physically to induce faster Merkaba spins while saying these words. So you're going to be physically spinning in a circle while saying this to increase the light body spin rate of your field. Um, this is essentially the technique used by breatharians or beings that don't eat food. They just live on the energy of the sun, energy of the source. Um, by doing the breatharians would do this morning and night, and they would not need to eat at all. So these are very, very powerful techniques. They've worked for thousands of years. They can and will work for you if you work at them. This is not hard at all. I'm going to probably make a video on this. I haven't really done the salutations fully myself. So I still use the magic words of co-creation, and eventually I'll get to the salutations. Um, these words are a big MFing deal, right? This is not a joke. I'm not trying to do this. There is, per Yoda, right? Master Yoda from Star Wars, do or do not, there is no try. You are not trying to manifest, you are manifesting. I've had a ton of luck doing these. I would also note that, um, manifesting with the magic words of co-creation and then eventually the salutations, any type of manifestation, it's going to take 3 days, 72 hours to work typically. Um, so everything, manifesting, all your magic or however you want to think of it, takes 3 days to land based on the physics of this realm. This is due to the 3D being very dense, the 4D being very dense relative to the higher dimension. In the higher dimensions, the manifestation is much faster, but down here it takes about 72 hours. So your manifestations have to go all the way through source and back to affect you, let alone the specific things you manifest.
All right, I got cut off there. My computer froze, but we're going to continue on with this next slide here. So sacred breath and its role in meditation and manifestation. So I covered this a little bit, and I'm just going to continue on. This slide is very, very straightforward. Very straightforward way of looking at this. So when you breathe, on a physics level, you are pulling in all three layers of creation into your field. So when you inhale, you are drawing energy from the divine feminine, right? The eerie A is the creation layer outside of the 15D matrix. That is the divine feminine layer. These are represented on the micro level by particum particles. Literally, you are literally when you inhale, you are drawing energy from the divine feminine, and it literally manifests your hologram from the vibration pre-sound field. Okay. When you hold your breath, you are drawing energy from the void or the man ow, man capital U. And these are represented by particae particles on the micro level.
Man-au is the void space as part of the Unisci, which is these three creation layers are called the Unisci. And you are literally recharging from the void, the no thing space that is that all is, right? And then when you exhale, you are projecting that energy that you've just drawn from the feminine, drawn from the void, and then projected into um, your state of beingness here, your hologram here, through the divine masculine. You're drawing energy from the divine masculine, the man A, a man capital A, and that's signified as the partica particles. Um, so essentially, this is the entire process of manifesting on a physics level. So the inhale, the hold, and the exhale, every single breath you're doing, you are manifesting your reality through these energetic systems we just talked about in the previous slide. So it's all connected. It's all the same. It's all circular logic. It's the highest perspective in this time matrix, and that is why I covered the Asha and Dean material from the Guardians from dimensions 13 through 15D. In 13 through 15D, there is no separation. There is no polarization. It is only beingness. So these are fully ascended beings, right? They're just in a state of pure meditative bliss the whole time. And bliss is probably a strong word. They're in a state of pure meditation the whole time. They're just in a state of beingness. So when you draw on these creation layers, it corresponds to these particles as well that are in you, the particle, partici, particum, and partic particles. So everything's connected, top down, bottom up. It's basically all the same. It's just in different sizes. Okay, so this next part is in terms of like meditation techniques. I covered this a little bit in my Astral Vision video. There's a lot of stuff about substances in there. I want to kind of reiterate that you do not need substances at all. You can do it all with breath. Substances are a great way to kind of show you the door. If you've never seen the door, maybe it's helpful to get you in there. Sometimes it can be too overwhelming. Sometimes maybe you have all this trauma and you don't want to take psychedelics. And of course, not medical, not legal advice, not financial advice. Speak a licensed professional for all these types of things. And I'm saying that for legal purposes, right? I'm not. Anyway, um, I often use both in conjunction with literally every meditation I do. Um, and I have a ton of methods in the first like 20 or so videos that I've made, but when I go into a meditation, I will often use substances and I will often use all my meditation techniques. If I were to not use substances, I would still use all my meditation techniques. So whether you're using substances or not, substances are like the nitrous booster on your race car. Um, you don't need it. You can be a perfectly good racer without nitrous, but maybe you want nitrous for this level of, the race, whatever. That's up to you. And so I want to kind of speak to this, but I also want to give you some breathing techniques to where you can do these whether you're on substances or you're not. So in quotes, different breaths do different things. There are many different methods. Please experiment with them. This is very like breathing is innate. I just explained how breathing is so innate to your physics experience here. So in quotes, use all available tools in your toolkit, whether you're on substances or not. You really can, intense breathing techniques can bring you into the realm that substances bring you into. And the substances last a long time. Some of them have side effects and they cost money and is blah blah blah. So you really want to do it sober. But the substances also can help, and I'm not necessarily saying to not use them either. So the idea is to master it sober and on substances. You need to be the master of your own universe. So the universe is you, you are the universe, your source, it's all the same thing. So if you want to be a master of your own universe, I would master it sober. I would master it on substances. I would, if you have the guts, take as much substances as you can take while being safe and try and do all things on a huge amount of substances. And it's going to be a totally different experience than doing it sober. But all the same, you should be able to do it both ways, right? When they train a soldier, the soldier can fight with his fists. He can fight with a knife. He can fight with a gun, right? You're not always going to have your rifle in your hand. So maybe you need to learn how to fight with your hands too. That's basically what I'm saying. Okay. And we're not here to fight, obviously, but the metaphor is apt. So let's talk about the Yogi Complete Breath. I have a video on this called a book review of Science of Breath. Let's see if we can see it here. You can't. Okay. Thank you for that. But the Yogi Complete Breath, basically, I cover this in my review of the Science of Breath by Yogi one of the yogis. I can't pronounce his name very well. But basically, the yoga complete breath, and the whole point of this book is that if you start your breath with the bottom of your abdomen, then go to the middle of your abdomen, then your upper abdomen, and then your chest, and you engage all four of those elements in that order, that is the yoga complete breath. And basically, any other version of breathing is going to be subpar to that. Full stop. Those are the systems required, and you should be using those systems. And then also, you want to inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. You can do an exhale through your nose as well. That's like a cleansing exhale. That's really cool. But again, your normal breathing, it's, when you're talking, you breathe through your mouth and these types of things. But typically when you breathe, you should have, um, you should be using lower abdomen, middle abdomen, upper abdomen, and your chest. It maximizes all the levels of they refer to it as chi or ki or qi, but really it's just source energy that you breathe in. Ki is kind of refers to some other things. Um, but anyway, the yogis get the breath part right, so that's why I'm covering it. Yeah, refer to my breath video. There's like a cleansing breath you can do where you exhale with a which is really cool. There's a few other techniques there. But those are basic techniques. I want to cover there's a few other things I want to cover here. So let's talk about Tai Chi. So I do Tai Chi. Tai Chi is really great. It combines kind of like a meditative mindset with some physical things you're doing with your hands and your legs and your arms. And then each one of these poses has a different breath with it. Tai Chi uses what's called reverse breathing for grounding. So I just explained to you the yoga complete breath where you start at the lower abdomen, middle abdomen, upper abdomen, then chest. If you want to do that in reverse, that's called reverse breathing. So you chest, it's literally incorrect breathing, but you start with your chest and then your actual abdomen shrinks down while you're doing it. And it's technically not the right way to breathe at all, but it does, it maximizes your CO2 intake with breath. So your chest inhale breath, chest inhale breath where your abdomen pulls in, that maximizes your CO2 intake, which is like a very grounding activity. Um, so if you're doing, in Tai Chi, in the two poses I have learned and I practice, basically, a couple of when you're pulling energy from the earth, when you're doing a grounding kind of energy pull from the earth, you use the reverse breath. Okay, I wouldn't use it for all your breaths, but it is a technique that is very interesting. Um, and yeah, there's also Indigo Angel in her grid working book, volume one. It's called the 3-2-1 breath, and I think it's on page 120 or so. Um, but basically, you breathe in for 3, you hold for 2, and you out for 1. So in this sense, you're maximizing. So you have 3 units of breath for the inhale. So you're getting a ton of divine feminine. You're holding for 2, you get a lot of void energy, and you're getting very little divine masculine. So in this realm where divine masculine has kind of, it's not divine masculine here. It's distorted masculine, has the distorted masculine patriarchy has ran things amok here. This is a really good breath to bring you to higher realms because you're maximizing. You're doing 3 units of breath for the inhale. So a lot of feminine energy coming into your field, and then you're holding for 2 energies, a lot of void energy, and then you're just doing a little bit of masculine. So you're projecting less and you're bringing in more. So from a physics point of view, it's very grounded. Um, Indigo said that this is used for remote viewing and astral projection. This is a direct transmission from the Guardian Alliance via Guardian Speaker One. Amanda DeMarco, Jane DeMarco is Indigo Angel. She took over for Ashiana Dean. Ashiana Dean was Guardian Speaker One, and now Indigo Angel is. So this is a direct transmission from the Guardians. I've used it a ton of times, and it is very powerful. It is a very simple thing to do, and by simply changing the ratio of your breathing, you can really, really send yourself. A technique that I use every single time. I don't necessarily use the Indigo Angel one all the time. I use the Yoga Complete Breath all the time, period. But the Wim Hof technique is very, very powerful. So he has a YouTube channel. He's like a doctor with a lab coat, right? The guy is, he knows a little bit about meditation, but he is completely clueless to the Guardians, the Law of One, all these types of things. So don't go worship the guy or anything. But his breathing technique is completely fire. So he is famous, doctor scientist. He went really viral in the early 2000s, I think. He has a YouTube channel. You can check out his videos. But basically, the principle of the Wim Hof method or the Wim Hof breath is you're going to do yoga complete breath. So inhaling from your low, middle, upper abdomen, and then your chest. But you're going to do them fast and full as many times as basically what he does is he does about a minute of these. He calls it circular breathing. So you're basically hyperventilating your system. It's very intense. You're hyperventilating your system. And he typically does it for 1 to 2 minutes. And then basically you hold your breath. And then, so there are two types of holding your breath that you can do. You can hold your breath at the bottom of the exhale. So you go, and then you hold your breath at the bottom of the exhale with nothing in your lungs. That is maximizing the CO2. That is a grounding energy, bringing the grounding energies into your field, right? It's a grounding practice, maximizing the CO2. You can also, well, you do it through your nose, but so, and then hold your breath at the top. The top of the breath is maximizing your higher dimensional energy coming into your field. So it's like a top down breath when you're holding it with all the oxygen in your lungs. When you pushed everything out, it's like a bottom up. So when I do I think it's on the next slide here. Yeah, application here. I pair this with pineal gland push-ups. So I will cross my eyes, look up, and hear wind in my ears while meditating. And substances, notably psychedelics, make the wind in your ears much, 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 much easier to hear, much, much easier to pull that. I call that astral wind, right? You can pull that astral wind in much, much, much easier on substances if you're having trouble. Although you should learn it with both substances and not substances. Substances are no crutch. They are a tool you can use and you must use responsibly, not medical, legal, financial advice. Seek a licensed medical professional if you have any interest in those things, obviously. But I pair this with the Maharic seal. So when I do my Maharic seal, part of the Maharic seal is you take that Merkaba, you make a big Merkaba basically, and then you run it through your chakras. And so when you bring it to your 13th chakra, which is at the center of the earth, right, all the way through your pillar into the center of the earth, um, basically I will do the Wim Hof technique, and then when I get to when I get the Merkaba to the bottom of the center of the earth, right, the center of the earth, I will do I will hold my breath with no oxygen in my lungs. So it's exhale and then hold. And that maximizes the CO2. So you're taking all that grounded energy, the grounding energy, using the grounding breath, and then pulling that into your field. And because you're meditating on your Merkaba and putting it in your 13th chakra, which is the center of the earth, in all ways, that's maximizing your groundingness, your grounded energy, however you want to view this grounded energy concept. Um, and then basically, when I go from chakra 13 to chakra 14, which is in deep space way above your head, right? So all the way through your pillar, all the way up to deep space above your head, I use the same technique, but I do the Wim Hof breathing, do that a bunch of times, and then I hold my breath at the top of my breath. So, and then hold. And that maximizes your higher dimensional energy. And when you're taking your Merkaba to your 14th chakra, which is in deep space way above you, you are maximizing your higher dimensional, you're projecting your consciousness to a higher dimensional space. So it all lines up in a physics point of view. And oftentimes, look, if you're having trouble getting vision in the astral, or it's, oh, I'm getting flickers, but I wish it was like more like a movie. Okay, that's part of the experience and you have to learn and grow through that. Yes, but this breathing technique, especially the Wim Hof, that doing that super fast is going to really, really ramp up the prana in your system, the chi in your system, the life force in your system, the source energy in your system via breath. And then when you do your hold, notably the one with your lungs full of oxygen, so hold your breath. All right, that inhale, I will typically get very strong visions of astral realms, higher dimensional realms, whether I'm on substances, whether I'm not on substances. And then when you're doing the low one, you get visions too, but they're just like a little different. It's like a different vibe. And I think it's gonna be different for everyone based on what you want to do and where you're going and where, it's up to you. But I do this technique all the time, and I've been doing it with Ari as well, and it's been really powerful for both of us. And it really, really brings in a lot of astral vision and a lot of astral connection into your field when you're really, really pushing your breath. Sometimes people will have revelations when they're exercising because they're essentially what they're doing is working their breath. You can go into a meditation and work your breath the same way with the Wim Hof method. I love it. It's great stuff. I'm currently researching other types of breath. I heard some guy talking about like a DMT maximizing breath. So your body creates DMT, dimethyltryptamine. It is a substance, yes, but it's also what allows you to sleep, and your body creates it and secretes it as a hormone. So there are tons of different breathing techniques. I mean, you could try the DMT maximizing breath. I found that on a YouTube channel. I think I have yet to try it. It's a tab open on my computer. I have to get to it. But there are tons of breathing techniques. Be sure to pair special breathing techniques, notably Wim Hof is what I prefer, with clearing your field with a mantra from my channel. All right, it's a very sovereign law of one, alignment and clearing of your field. The Maharic seal. Basically, you're using a Merkaba to clear out your D1 dimensional one, so your body's chakra systems. Pineal gland push-ups, crossing your eyes and looking up and hearing the wind in your ears. That is you pulling energy into your field in like a very, very strong manner. You're always pulling energy into your field, yes. But the crossing your eyes and looking up and hearing the wind in your ears, notably on substances, it really increases that element. Um, that is very, very, very powerful to pair with all these techniques. Sun gazing and grounding. You charge up energy from the sun. I also like you can do this. You make this symbol. You hold your hands taut, strong arms, not loose arms, and you do this while staring at the sun and sun gazing. That's helpful too. That's a way you can pull energy in from the sun. But you could simply just stare at the sun and cross your eyes. That works too. You could do all of the above. um, and grounding is great. Bare feet on the grass. We've already spoken about this. Substances are not required, but vastly increase your ability to do pineal gland push-ups and pull in energy into your field and travel to higher dimensional realms. Although you can do all of this sober. All the yogis are doing this sober and have been for years and years and years and years. It is definitely possible. Substances, though, are kind of a shortcut. So maybe work with the shortcuts, maybe don't work with the shortcuts, maybe try some off, try some on. I have done both. I've been sober for many, many, many months and done all these techniques sober as well. They totally work. Nicotine as well as organic cannabis. I don't like a lot of the cannabis nowadays you get from like the smoke shop or dispensary or what have you, legally, of course, is not organic. So I would buy the organic stuff or I wouldn't buy it in general. I have smoked non-organic cannabis. All right, it's not going to kill you, but you don't want a very hybridized GMO type product. You want a product that is organic. So nicotine, organic cannabis, and ketamine are preferred for me. Obviously, get a prescription, medic card. Show them your ID when you're buying the cigarettes. All that. Right. Abide by the laws here. I'm not giving you legal, medical, financial advice. And other psychedelics, mushrooms and stuff are really cool too. LSA, I prefer LSA, which is morning glory seeds, over LSD, and they're basically the same substance. I talk about that in my Astral Vision video. But nicotine also really, really pumps the alpha and the beta waves. So if you're doing like a meditation, an alpha waves meditation or a beta waves meditation, um, beta waves focus, alpha and beta especially, really focus on your acuity, your focus. So a lot of times I will engage with substances and then I will engage with nicotine and then I'll be like really, really like it's kind of intense when you do that, especially when you're smoking strong cigarettes. And then you go into your meditation and you are completely, completely like completely on it, right? And if you can manage to do your clearing mantra, do your Maharic seal, align yourself with that infinite flow of source, you are really effing high. And so it's very easy to connect to the higher dimensional realms. That's why they use the term high. High is not bad, high is not good. It is a state of being. And it is your free will choice to do so or not do so. Do not engage irresponsibly. Do not become a drug addict. Many of these substances are somewhat addictive. Notably, ketamine is not. Um, so let's talk about my personal experience. So, um, past lives on Earth. I'm not going to spend too long on this, but I want to speak to my own experience because that's what I can talk about. If you find this boring, feel free to skip. So most humans on this planet have past lives, right? So they've died here and reincarnated here one times, many times, thousands of times, hundreds of times. Past life regressions, QHHT therapy is kind of the staple for how you draw on these memories. Although you can do it in a meditation without having a fancy QHHT session and spending a bunch of money. You can do this all yourself. You don't need a QHHT practitioner at all. I guarantee it. Um, so when I regress my past lives on Earth, I get Shiva. I don't really have past lives on Earth. I'm a walk-in. I walked into this body from a stasis pod when I was the age of 7. So I don't have past lives on Earth. I don't have karma. Per my numerology at the bottom of the slide here, you can look up your karmic debt number, which is associated with how much karmic debt you have, how much past life trauma you have. Mine is a zero state, so I have no karmic debt from past lives here on Earth 606. I was a walk-in at age 7, no past lives. So yeah, in a sense, I am less burdened by some of the um, uh, um, karmic loops that other beings here on this planet um, were engaged in. So sometimes people will do a past life regression. Oh, I died in this battle. I was an Atlantean priestess or whatever. All sorts of distortions like that. Those are to be released. All right, the Atlanteans did not ascend, by the way. So bragging about being an Atlantean priestess is like I wouldn't do that. Bragging about having a past life being in a war. I don't want to fight in a war. I don't want to kill anyone. Why would you brag about that? So, so anyway, these are not things to brag about, but these are things you need to release. You need to, you know, call that trauma back to you, learn your lesson from it, and then release it back to natural organic source like we talked about in the beginning of the video. For me, I have a Shivan aspect. So, per my basically Shiva split himself into seven pieces. Each one of those seven pieces is one of the stars in the milk in the Big Dipper. And the Big Dipper is the top funnel from where source energy flows in from the creation realms all the way down to Earth, which is the bottom of the chain. So I'm triple conjunct Merrick, Merek, and that is the corner star in the Big Dipper, the handle. It's the corner of the handle of the Big Dipper. And so, I mean, triple conjunction, you might have, I'm going to explain this in my next video, but it is very, very, very rare. Having a conjunction is rare. Having a triple conjunction to this same star is obscenely rare. Um, so that's how we can prove it in kind of a natal sense, but I've also gotten this from all my experiences and a ton of session work. So for me, I don't have to deal with Earth's path lives as much, but I do have karmic trauma, karmic things to work through based on Shiva. So Shiva is the time stream himself, right? The time stream is fully absolute. It's fully law of one. That's why you see me here being really, really adamant about law of one, because I'm pulling that Shiva energy through my system. And, Shiva is completely absolute. The time stream is absolute. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about the time stream. So I have to work. I came down to this third, the third lower heaven, the fourth lower heaven, where we're sitting right now on Earth 606. I came into this third lower heaven, fourth lower heaven to accept relativity rather than absoluteness. So when you're in the higher timeless realms, it's just absolute. It's just beingness. It's just completely absolute everywhere. You don't have choice to separate from source. Down here, there's all sorts of different choices you can make. Right? You could choose polarization, you could choose separation, you could choose partial separation, you can choose something that looks like separation and may not be separation. You don't even know, right? It's very difficult down here. So, as a Shivan aspect with no, past lives on Earth, I have to deal with, this dense realm being very relative, being, there's a lot of gray. It's not black and white down here. In the higher dimensions, in the timeless spaces, you're either in a state of beingness or you have descended and you're not in a state of beingness, right? It's completely absolute. So Shiva, as the time stream, lives in a world of only absolutes. I was told by the Guardians I have to, in quotes, I have to learn to accept relativity, relative existence, not just absolute existence. So everyone, even though I don't have past lives on Earth, and maybe you have a ton of past lives on Earth that are really traumatic, maybe you have SSP experiences that are really traumatic. I'm not saying I'm better than you. No one is better than anyone, any regard, any regard. But I still have things to learn, even though I don't have past lives on Earth. Everyone is has come here to learn soul lessons, and I am not free of that. No, nor is anyone. Cool. That kind of wraps it up here. I'm going to be coming more. In my next video, I'll be focusing, I think I'm going to have it out tomorrow-ish. I'll be focusing on how to read your galactic origin and your past lives using astrology. So your natal chart, you take your natal chart and then you run it by fixed star conjunctions. And then that tells you your past lives. It's really, really simple. And everyone is really focused on like, oh, Gemini's in this house. And, that's all based on, tropical Western uh, uh, or the Vedic, and both of those are not quite accurate. True Sky is the only accurate one. So there's everyone's talking about, oh, Gemini's in this house, and I feel weird. I mean, that's not necessarily incorrect, but that is not necessarily the highest perspective here. Your galactic origins can be determined by your fixed star conjunctions aligned with your natal chart from when you arrived here. So it's very easy to pinpoint these types of things. Um, you're a fractal of source or tons of other fractals of you, and you can explore those by looking at your fixed star conjunctions compared to your natal chart. I'll deep dive into my own story and my natal chart, and I wanted to share some more stuff that I've been working through. I talked about Shiva here and my Shivan aspect, and I'm going to back that up with my natal chart in my next video. Okay, I thought that's going to wrap it up for today. It's been a long one. If you're still here, thank you for your time and consideration. I love doing these videos and sharing this. It's my soul mission, and I'm glad I get to share it with you. If you have any comments, any concerns, you want to tell me I'm wrong, feel free. Please be respectful. If you think I got something wrong and you want to like inform me of it, that's great. I'd love to hear you. I'd love to hear your viewpoint. If you want to come on an interview, I'd love to interview people with viewpoints, and we can talk about it in a law of one manner. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there. Peace, love, sovereignty, sovereignty, not saviors, and speak the eternal ELAYSA flame. Cheers, y'all.